Dr. Deb explains research process, purpose, rationale. Hello, my name is Dr. Deb, and I'm the professor and department chair for the Learning Strategies Department at Victoria College. Today I'm here to introduce you to the introduction section of the research process. For today's video, I will be using How to Read a Scientific Article by Peruganen and Hewitt. They explain the IMRD structure of the research process. This structure includes the introduction, the methods, the results, and the discussion. The introduction can also be classified as a purpose and rationale for the research study. It explains why the researchers decided to study this topic. The introduction basically serves two purposes. First, it is designed to create interest for the reader, and it provides just enough information so they can understand the research, without telling the reader what was discovered. You don't want any spoilers. Researchers accomplish this by explaining why this study is important. They lead the reader from what is known about the topic to what isn't known, the research question, or what the researchers hope to learn. As an example, let's look at how Strage and Sorkabi introduced their research in the Academic Risks Associated with Emerging Adults Seeking the College Experience article. First, they explain the sad news that roughly half of the students who go to college will not graduate. They explain what other researchers have found that supports this claim. Then, in the next paragraph, they explain that researchers have tried to identify what causes this to occur based on demographics or educational backgrounds. Again, they support what they say with research from other researchers. Then, in the final paragraph, before the methods section, Strage and Sorkabi explain how researching students' reasons for attending college may provide a better answer before introducing their research question, or what they hope to find. Whether and how students availed themselves of the assistance of their professors might provide as they advance through their college journey. Now, this is the beginning of the research question. If you look at the results section, you will see that they actually include two research questions here. How do students who report attending college for more social reasons differ in their approach to their studies and their academic responsibilities? And how do these students differ in the ways in which they take advantage of the resources available to support their academic success? As you write your introduction, there are a few things to keep in mind. First, you aren't writing an essay, so you don't need as many of the items that you need in a regular introduction for an essay. You don't need a hook, you don't need a thesis statement or a claim, mostly because you don't want to tell your readers what you've discovered. If you do, will they need or want to read your paper? But also, you may not know what you've discovered yet. All you really need in your introduction is, what are you writing about? And why is this topic important to your readers? Then you need to provide a bit of background information for your readers. Since you are writing about how students become successful academic performers in college, this is your research question. You may want to focus on what you know about why students aren't successful in college. What are some of the things that students struggle with that keep them from being successful in college? Your instructor will tell you how many items to include in this part, but you should focus on issues that students have and support your ideas with information from the textbook. Then, begin your research question section. Label this subheading, Research Question, and put it in bold, left aligned, on your paper. Then, under the subheading, state the research question. How do students become successful academic performers in college? You may want to lead into this sentence just a little bit and not just blurt it out. Then, help your readers understand the terms in the research question. What do you mean by successful? Is this passing or making a 4.0 GPA? And what is an academic performer? If you, the researcher, don't know what an academic performer is, how will your readers know? Use this section to help your readers understand your research question so they know what you are looking for. After all, you have to know what you're looking for in order to know if you found it. As a brief synopsis, the introduction introduces the reader to the topic of the paper and explains why this topic is important without going into any details. You don't want to say students should or students need to in your introduction because you don't know that yet. Then, explain some background information. What do you already know about the topic? And what do you still need to know? Support these beliefs with evidence from other researchers. Then, conclude your introduction with your research question. This has been Dr. Deb Explains the Research Process, Purpose, and Rationale. Until next time, research well.